Everything. My name is Marjorie Flanagan. I'm the division manager over museums and cultural programs, which includes the George Washington Carver Museum, Cultural Center, and Genealogy Center. I am super happy to be here. Yes, it's a rainy Saturday, but I love seeing all my lovely co-collaborators, co-workers, friends, you know the deal. Anyways, we're gonna talk about the facility expansion phases 1A and 1B, and maybe we can move into some introductions. Here's an agenda for today, but yeah, I'm gonna let everyone introduce themselves. As I said, I'm Marjorie Flanagan, and we have Tony Hron. He's here. Would you like to introduce yourself, Tony?
Sure. Hi there. I'm an associate project manager with the Austin Parks and Recreation Department. I will be overseeing this project not just in the community engagement phase, but throughout design and ultimately construction. So that's my role here. I'll be giving some nuts and bolts aspects of the project, explanations of former efforts and potential future efforts, but I'm going to leave it to my cohorts here who are our community engagement specialists. So, Adrian?
Thanks, Tony. My name is Adrienne O'Keefe, and I'm a community engagement specialist, as Tony said, and I work with PARD on the communications and engagement unit. I focus on capital improvement projects, and I'm grateful to be here and be working with this team. I'll turn it over to Christine.
Christine may have stepped away, but we definitely want to mention Carrie Adams, the manager of the museum, Christine, who is in our marketing and communications team, Dawn Burnside and Freddie are all part of the Carver staff, and we are so lucky to have them with us. And Sharonda, would you like to introduce yourself, Medisa?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. It's a joy to be with you this morning. I'm Sharonda Robinson, and I am the CEO and founder of Adisa Communications. We were really excited back in the early 2000s to be part of the original expansion team, and even more grateful in 2024 to rejoin the team and continue to move the Carver forward. And so I'm joined by Millie Williams, who is a project manager at Adisa Communications. And it's also Millie's birthday.
So. Yay! Happy birthday, Millie. I also just wanted to mention some housekeeping items. As I said, we're recording the meeting. Also, if you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat. We'll be monitoring that and making sure that we are able to get to everyone's questions. You can also raise your hand through the Zoom meeting, or we maybe ask that you hold your questions till the end so we can get through all of the information we have for you, and then also have time for your questions. So I am going to hand it over to Sharonda, and she's going to walk us through the meeting. Thanks.
Thank you, Marjorie. And again, welcome and thank you for joining us this morning. This is a really important conversation for our community. And so what we want to focus on today are a couple of things. One is we really want to make sure, can we go to the purpose slide? That we hear from you. We know that there are folks in this community who have a lot of historical knowledge about the community, about the Carver, and there are people who are also newer to the community. We want to hear from the broad spectrum of input that is available to us. We also want your help in identifying priorities for expansion. We know that the planning for the Carver is done in phases. In large part, that's due to budget constraints, financing constraints. We can't do everything all at once, and so we have to do it step by step. And so we want to know from you what are the priorities related to the recommended improvements. And then we also want to use these meetings to build stronger community. The Parks and Recreation Department, the Carver Museum team is really interested in being in relationship with you throughout this entire process because the Carver belongs to you. It is deeply embedded in the community, and we want to respect and honor that as well. So that's why we're here today. And again, we're grateful that you've joined us. And we can go to the next slide. So I'm going to ask Tony to give us an overview of the expansion plan so that everyone understands like where we are today with the expansion plan and how we arrived here. All right. Tony?
Sure.
You can skip this one and then we'll come back, Millie.
So this is a quick timeline of the history of the Carver. I won't get too much into this if we can go to the next slide, but feel free to peruse this. We will have this presentation posted on our website after the fact. So in 2000, a feasibility study for expansion of the Carver Museum was done. And in 2005, phase 1 of 3 identified phases was completed, which results in the facility that you see there today. Phases 2 and 3 of that 2000 expansion plan got stalled out. And so in 2021, it was revisited, and those 2 phases were reconfigured and additional community engagement was done. And a new 3-phase expansion plan was developed, the first of which is what we're here to talk about today. So next slide, please. This shows you all 3 phases of the 2021 expansion plan. So what you see there in the darker red or salmon color, if you will, is the phases we're talking about today, phase 1A and 1B. And I'll get into what that includes here on the next slide. But phase 2, which is the lighter kind of pinkish color, that is going to be an addition to the facility. So we're going to be expanding the museum gallery and adding an educational component, adding a ballroom for events to the existing facility. And then in phase 3, we will be adding a second theater within the facility, along with a parking garage on site and a Juneteenth outdoor plaza at the corner of the properties there. So that gives you an idea of the phases that will be transpiring over the next, hard to predict how long, but definitely 10 plus years. Next slide, please. Moving into what the current phases that we're here to discuss today. Phase 1 improvements include in the current administrative suite at the Carver, they are going to relocate those offices into a new upper level area, and that administrative suite will be reconfigured into a new multi-purpose area to serve for events, classes, workshops, and other community needs. Like I said, the new administrative suite will be moved into an upper level, and we will be working with staff to make sure that they have what they need, and that'll allow for them to operate more efficiently while opening up those ground floor levels to the public. To access that administrative suite, we'll be installing a new elevator. And then finally, a discussion around the relocation of the Juneteenth statues and Freedom Walk on site there. So with the expansion that's planned, there's been some thought that the courtyard there where they currently exist may not be the best location for them. And so we are hoping to relocate them to one of 3 locations on the Carver site as part of this phase. Next slide, please. So phase 1B, this gets more into outdoor improvements. So you can see here The four aspects of this phase are outdoor classroom spaces, which can be used in conjunction with both the outdoor garden space, community gardens, which we're showing here, but also as a general learning environment for things that make sense to be held outside. For example, if you were going to be exploring the Juneteenth statues, you may do that and then retire to these outdoor classrooms to discuss them. We will be renovating the existing public bathrooms that are on site, bringing them up to code and up to current standards. And then finally, we'll be creating a flexible event lawn with a covered pavilion that'll host a variety of performances, festivals, community events of different sizes and scales. So those are the kind of 8 areas over phase 1A and 1B that we're looking to modify. And then here you can see this is a proposed site plan showing all 3 phases of expansion. So again, here the pinkish elements are going to be parts of phase 2 and 3, along with the parking structure and the Juneteenth Plaza shown in the lower left. And here you can see many of the outdoor elements that are part of the phase we're talking about right now, including the community garden, outdoor classrooms, renovated restrooms, and event lawn. And I will hand it over to back to Sharonda to talk about community engagement.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much, Tony. I want to make sure that everyone knows that we welcome your questions and your comments, and you can raise your hand or put them in the chat. Since we have a small group, you can also just unmute yourself and jump in. All right, so what we're going to do now is go back a little bit in history. Tony gave us an overview of some of the planning that had been done and the outcomes of that planning. Where it came from were a series of community meetings. And remember, this was held during COVID, so everything was online at the time. But there were 3 community meetings that were held to get feedback and input. There was a technical advisory group that was assembled to support the development of the expansion plan. And then we did 8 small group discussions as part of the planning process. Now we're mirroring this process that we did in 2021 for what we're doing now. We're going to have a community meeting, and then we're going to have a series of small group discussions. The difference is we get to do some of these meetings in person as well as online. And so we'll show you the schedule of meetings at the end of the meeting today. So today we want to get your input in a couple of different areas. And so we created a chart to show you where we know we need input from the community, which is on the left-hand side. That's community input opportunity. So there's an indoor multi-purpose room, the community garden, the event lawn with the covered pavilion, the relocation of the Juneteenth statues, and the outdoor classrooms. And then on the right-hand side of the chart, under determined in existing planning, these are areas that are already determined from a planning standpoint in the plan. And so we're not asking for community input on those plans. So that's the administrative suite on the new mezzanine level, the new elevator for the administrative suite, and then the updated outdoor restrooms, the updated outdoor restrooms. So, but before we get into this, Millie, if you can go back to the Menti slide. What we want to do now is understand a little bit more about the community that's gathered today. So who's in the room? And so what we want you to do is to bring out your phone, or, and we'll put it in the chat, join menti.com and enter the code 34334255. We're going to do a quick little poll to see who's here and what you're interested in today before we jump into some of the discussions on the different areas. All right, so I'm going to now share my screen because I am running Menti. And let's see here. All right, are you all seeing Menti? Yes, you are, I believe. And you can go to menti.com and use the code 3433-4255. And I'll give folks a few moments to join in. Oh, I edited out a word. I'm sorry. It should be what word best describes what you think about the Carver Museum and Cultural Center. That's our icebreaker. Sorry about that. So what word best describes what you think about the Carver Museum and Cultural Center? Community. Yes, we all feel that way. Deep. Okay, that's interesting. I wonder if that's about the history, about the collections. What does deep mean? All right, we'll give it just another second. What word best describes what you think about when you think about the Carver Museum and Cultural Center? Culture, wonderful Black art. The man, G.W. Carver. Of course. Unifying, fun, comprehensive, collaborative, wonderful Black art. Looks like we've got someone joining the waiting room, so we'll give them a moment to jump in. So what word best describes what you think about when you think about the Carver Museum and Cultural Center? And welcome to, I can't see, has she joined?
Angela, yes, I believe
Okay.
she has.
Okay. Welcome, Angela. If you would like, you can get on your phone or your browser and join us at Menti, MENTI.com, and then enter the code 3433-4255, 3433-4255. And we are going to be just doing a quick kind of polling exercise to understand who's here and what you all are thinking about from the community standpoint. So right now we are answering the question, what word best describes what you think about when you think about the Carver Museum and Cultural Center? And we've got some great responses here. All right, I'm gonna keep moving.
She's asking for the code again. Angela,
Okay,
I'm not sure if you can see the screen. It's up at the top, 3433-4255. And there's
thank you.
also, of course,
Mhm.
there's also the link again if you need it.
Thank you, Adrian. All right. So now we want to know who's here. Please tell us about yourself. Are you a visual artist? Are you a part of an arts organization, a theater artist, an adjacent neighbor, community member, City of Austin employee, parents of guardians of youth participants, or a student? So we've got visual artists and arts organizations representing. We've got a student here. That's wonderful. City of Austin employees, obviously, and community members. Well, thank you all so much for joining us this morning. And then please tell us about yourself. We would love to know race or ethnicity if you feel comfortable responding. All right. And age range. This is anonymous, so you can be honest. Millie, we know you have a birthday today, so. Wonderful. All righty. And which council district do you call home? District 1 is representing District 8. Okay. And District 5, or Allison Alter. The colors are the same, so I'm not sure which one when I look at my chart here. Thank you all. And how long have you lived in Austin? You all have gotten the hang of this. Thank you. All right. Long timers here, between 30 and 10 years. That's wonderful. And in 2024, how often did you visit the Carver? We know if you work there, it was more than one time a week. 5 to 12 times. Okay. Pretty frequent. Fewer than 5 times. And how do you use the Carver Museum? How do you use the space? And you can answer more than one on this slide. So attending the theater and special events, and then rehearsal in community rooms. Anyone else? All right, so that's the end of our overview. Thank you all for doing that. Millie, we can go ahead and pull up the presentation again. So again, I just want to remind you that you can raise your hand, you can put a comment or a question in the chat, or you can come off your microphone and we can just hear your voice as part of the conversation. So what we're going to be doing now is asking you a series of questions about each one of the areas that we want to focus on today. Because we have a small group, I know that we're going to be able to just speak one at a time. We really do want to hear from you, and so I may call on you as part of our discussion and ask you to put it in the chat or unmute yourself so we can hear you. And Constance, I hear very entered unadult classes. Not sure what that means.
Sorry about
Okay.
my being very interested in taking adult classes.
Okay, gotcha. Gotcha. Okay, perfect. Thank you. So we do have some questions about programming. And so that would be a great place for you to weigh in. We can go to the next slide. All right, so we want to start first with the indoor multi-purpose room. And we have 4 questions for you related to the indoor multi-purpose room. Now, what we probably want to do is go back to the site plan overview, or maybe Tony, the one that you pulled up that showed where the
Yep, I'll grab that.
be, and then we'll do the questions. So Millie, if you can bring down your slides, and Tony can pull that up, because it'll be good for you to see where that's envisioned as we start this conversation. But if you think about it, it's the area now where the current administrative offices are. that area would be, so when you come into the Carver, it's to the left. That area would be repurposed to create this indoor multi-purpose room. And then the staff would be moved up to that mezzanine level that Tony talked about. Well, we want to show you where that is. And then we want to ask you a couple of questions about like what types of events you would like to see in that multi-purpose room. How do you envision it being used? What features or amenities are important to be used, to be housed in that space? And I really like the questions, and you'll see it across all of the different spaces. We're looking to do more than just what is required by the American Disabilities Act. In the Carver, we want to make sure that the space is accessible. So in each of the areas, we're asking questions about what can we do above and beyond essentially ADA.
I just
All right.
need Millie or Sharonda to give me permission to share.
Sure. I think Millie's gonna have to do that. All right, you've got co-host now, Tony.
Great. So the area that Sharonda was talking about is this green area. So this is the main entry for the Carver. This is the big drum reception lobby, and the administrative suite is here. And this will be converted to those new community multi-purpose spaces.
All right, thank you, Tony, for that. So now that we know where this is envisioned, let's talk about it. Let's talk about what you see there, what types of uses, who you think is in that space, like what types of amenities. And I'll just open the floor for your feedback. And again, you can put it in the chat, or you can raise your hand, or you can unmute yourself. Any feedback on the indoor multi-purpose room, or questions about it?
I have a question.
Yes.
My name is Terry Burdett. I am a member of the George Washington Carver Ambassadors, and I've been a member of that organization probably for well over 20 years. One of the things I do notice, because I do a lot of event planning, it's challenging if you have the kitchen in the back of kind of midway of the facility, and you're trying to serve the participants and the attendees with food. It's, the food is in one area, and then the area, the drum and the lobby area. So as you're planning for the new event space, can there be an area for caterers, for such as a prep area for food, as opposed to walking through the museum with food and drinks? Because right now I'm in the midst of planning for the reception that will be next week for the Senior Bell Social. And every year I have to pretty much come early to kind of design, depending on where everything's in the menu in the museum, how the tables are going to be set up. So pretty much sometimes every year is different, depending on what's going on and the artwork and so forth. So it's challenging for those who are planning events to kind of know how we're going to use that space. So if there is an area dedicated just for prep, that will help things run a lot smoother, where we are not going in between people with trays and food and things like that. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry, and thank you for your service to the museum for the last 20 years. That's incredible.
Thank you.
All right, any other comments or questions or feedback on the indoor multi-purpose room? I wonder what you envision in terms of technology uses in the space.
Sharonda, I wanted to point out Angela chatted in the message in the chat. Yeah, and so she said, number 1, adaptive exercises, number 2, community gatherings, and number 3, commercial kitchen upgrade.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that, Adrian. And thank you, Angela, for putting your comments in the chat. Any other feedback, questions, desires, hopes, wishes for this indoor multi-purpose room?
Yes, I had one more. This is just the room over where the office is, correct?
Yes.
For now. Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, I
Yes.
think that's it for now.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, we will go to the next topic. So,
I have
Tony,
a question.
yes,
If-
who is speaking?
This is Constance.
Hello,
It may be naive, but I am still fairly new to Austin, but familiar with the museum and would visit even when I didn't live here. But have you benchmarked other African American museums or African American cultural centers to see how they use their spaces? Because I just don't have a comprehensive knowledge of everything that happens at the Carver, but I do think they do a lot, which is great. I love the variety, but curious about some of the aspirations of staff and then what other spaces you've looked at just in comparison.
Sure. And I'll let Tony answer that, and maybe even Christine. But I do know that the staff is heavily involved and has been heavily involved in the planning and input for each of the expansion plans. So Tony, you want to give more specifics on the benchmarking?
Yes, I think with each phase of design investigation, the design teams will do that type of benchmarking. So that did happen with the 2021 facility expansion plan. It will certainly happen per phase as we bring on design teams to help us. And just so you know, we are currently in the midst of soliciting a design team for this phase of work and hope to have them onboarded to the project in spring of 2025. So that it's a little cart before the horse right now, but that absolutely will happen as we proceed through the project. And Christine, I don't know if you want to give some input on, if you're still here, on staff and how you all manage your load there.
Yeah, I'm still here. As far as what we are aspiring for or to, personally, I try to travel the country and visit other African American museums. I've just come back from visiting the Charles Wright Museum in Detroit, and I think most of our leadership staff is doing the same type of R&D on their own time. And then in terms of like programming, what we are striving for as a unit is to just continue to elevate our Juneteenth citywide celebration. I think that it's become part of the mission and in a very deep way to the staff and community. So expanding in ways that will support that dream of expanding the Juneteenth program is in the forefront for the staff. And then of course, just an expanded administrative area, because currently it's pretty tight in our existing office space. And so we're looking forward to that. And then of course, just elevating community access and resources is very important to us as well, because like you said, we have just like an expansive, wide array of programming that we provide, and we want to do more, but currently we're just constrained by the space that we have, if that answers your question.
I wanted to add, I put the expansion plan from the 2021 community engagement in the chat, and it really delves deeply into all of the community engagement, including staff engagement that has happened to inform this sort of expansion plan. It doesn't have benchmarking in it, but I do hope that the design team will go through a benchmarking process to showcase what other museums have done for their spaces. Sorry, my daughter's like creeping up right next to me. But I also wanted to say, the Carver isn't just constrained by the space, we're also constrained by staff size and budget. So all of those things together lead to what we are able to currently, deliver.
All right, thank you so much.
Sorry,
So,
Shonda. Sorry to
there's a
interrupt.
question in the chat. Is that?
Yeah,
from
there is a
Congress? Okay.
question. Oh, so
ahead.
it looks like it was answered, but the question was, is the museum or staff a part of the Association of African American Museums? And then Angela replied, yes, it's a Smithsonian member. So thank you.
All right. Thank you all. That's great feedback on
Can I just say that the Smithsonian is the Smithsonian has its own association of museums and cultural institutions, but there's a National Association of African American Museums that's separate, I think, from the Smithsonian, just for clarification.
As far as I know, we are a part of that membership. At one point in time, it lapsed because of change of leadership, but I believe that we are part of it currently.
Thank you.
Is there any way to confirm as we're doing all of this? That's a great question, Constance. Thank you.
We can confirm that, and I think we're also a part of the American Association of Museums. So I think all through three, we're a Smithsonian Institute partner,
Affiliate, technically.
affiliate partner, actually. Association of African American Museums and American Association of Museums. Let me triple check.
I am curious for the folks who raised that question, why is that important to you?
For me, just being a part of a national organization, not only the Smithsonian, but the member organizations that like national trends and sharing, being a part of a national network that shares challenges, concerns, but also has convenings to expand the network and partnerships to explore professional development opportunities for staff, and also to just raise awareness about the programs and the wonderful things the Carver is doing as well on a national level.
Thank you for that.
I pulled up their webpage and we are listed in Texas as one of the members.
And for
that-
which one?
I'll put that in the chat for the African American Association of African American Museums.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right. Great feedback, great conversation, discussion on this area, the indoor classroom space. And I believe the rest of the categories are outdoor spaces. And outdoor features of the museum. So now we're going to go outside to the community garden and have a conversation about what that space could be for the Carver Museum. All right. So let's talk about the community garden. And sorry to be flipping back and forth. We should probably just drop it in this presentation, but I'd love to show where the area is for the community garden so everyone's on the same page. So Tony, can you, or maybe, actually we do have it in the presentation. Can we go up to that slide, Millie? And as we're doing that, we will put the questions in the chat for the community garden. And I can go over them. So the first question is, what role do you think the community garden should play in the new museum space? How can the garden show the history and culture of Austin's African American community and George Washington Carver's work with farming and agriculture? What kinds of plants or features would make the garden both fun and educational? And should the garden be more about people getting involved and working together, or should it mainly show off local plants and farming. So what along that spectrum. So that's what we want to talk about now related to the community garden. Anyone have thoughts, questions, ideas about this space?
Constance, again, just having been in Austin a blip over 2 years and not knowing the breadth of everything that happens there I think from a community planning standpoint, drawing from the resources that are already in Austin. So I think a network always makes us stronger so that you're not designing or planning or doing things alone or in a silo. But I'm sure the museum and staff are already plugged in, but to expand the talent of the staff that's there, but drawing from the resources from the community would be great. And knowing whatever they do is sustainable so that if things are going to be planted, how's the community buy-in, supporting a living space, if you will, and definitely, something that is interactive. And I know those are really broad and maybe vague terms or ideas in this planning phase, but I think sustainability is important from a community standpoint. We hear promises of things and aspirations, and then 2 or 3 years or 6 months, sometimes even things are just not as viable as sometimes the planning aspires for it to be. So I guess overarchingly ensuring that whatever happens there is sustainable and that you have broad community support to make sure that it's not all resting on staff to make sure that that success happens.
So what does that look like to you in terms of sustainability?
On one end, if it's a community garden, having broad programming for folks who like to get their hands in the dirt, but also those of us who like to eat, uh, and those of us who want to just learn about maybe food pathways and food traditions of African Americans and specifically African Americans in Austin. What was the farming community like for African Americans in Austin? I did a Black History tour in, I think it was Pflugerville, within my first few months of being here. It was really interesting to learn about the peach orchards that used to be there that are no longer there. And I think connecting people to the history, whether it's through you know, going into my art history terms here, but didactics, or Marjorie, help me, what's a interpretive information that's there to provoke more curiosity so that people who are newer like me really find that sense of grounding themselves in learning and knowing more about the African American like food culture and traditions that are here. It, does that make sense?
Yes, it absolutely does. And thank you for indulging me on a follow-up question there. What comes, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I love where your head is at, Constance, and I think we're gonna be leaning as we develop programming for the expanded space greatly on partnerships. The Parks Department overall is learning some new practices and partnering with private entities, community members, sharing agreements. I think this is a great opportunity for us to partner with the Community Gardens program and other folks that are working sort of in the food pathways and gardens area. And I think this is a great opportunity that we are a museum in the Parks Department to really bolster this outdoor space and be able to make it the most inviting and dynamic space for community members to come and learn about, the history of African Americans in Texas and in Austin specifically in regards to gardens and agriculture, and then the tie to George Washington Carver and his history in agriculture as well.
I think that's wonderful. Also thinking cross-generationally. My mother just retired. She started gardening, not food gardening, but more ornamental and plant gardening. And my 7-year-old niece and 4-year-old nephew like to be out in her garden with her. And so I think that cross-generational connection is important. And also, because the Genealogy Center is there, just opportunities for storytelling. And so it's kind of a whole ecosystem into itself in placekeeping and placemaking, those buzzwords that we like to use so much.
Thank you.
Sharonda, you're
This is
muted.
a great discussion on the outdoor garden space. And I also heard the sustainability and collaboration with community to ensure that the programming for the garden continues and is sustained with support from community, not just staff led. So I'm thinking about strategies for how we might do that.
Yes.
Okay,
I have a
yes, go ahead.
my feedback. I was trying to type it, but I'll just talk. For number one, obviously make sure the pathways to the garden are wide enough and accessible for people with wheelchairs or any kind of assistive devices, so they can go through if there's going to be like a community gardening day or learning how to plant day, like the education on how to plant, and also harvesting, so that way everyone can participate. I know you were speaking that you wanted to go above and beyond ADA. So I definitely will say, make sure every door and pathway is accessible via ramp or whatnot, because sometimes the handicap entrance, you got to still go around
Right.
the lawn. It's not, it's not
Not
comfortable.
accessible.
It's not
Right.
accessible. And
Mhm.
while people mean well, accessible people who need, accessible can't even talk. I'm sorry. I am in
It's
menopause and I
early.
have brain fog. So, but yeah, I
Yeah.
think you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Just make sure everyone can participate. And as far as what foods we would like, definitely the heirloom seeds, which I think are there at the moment. But I know, like in East Texas, like purple hull peas, there's certain things that people use to get by before there was stores. I mean, whatever we could grow and possibly like a little market from time to time. But again, it's sustainable with maybe working with the SFC or someone, so the staff is not overburdened with all of this work. But definitely a community partnership. I don't know if there's still a master gardener, or she might have left. I can't remember if she's still there, but I think it's really important to have what
Thank you.
Constance said, but attaching onto that with the didactic, the theoretical, and putting your hands in the dirt, especially with the children, but multi-generational with the elders who have been here that, are people keep their own gardens. Like, we can find those people and they can share what they've done with storytelling and tying that within to Carver with a curriculum set up by the museum. If there's an education specialist at the museum, that would be great. Or in the parks department, I'm not sure.
Thank you, Angela. Thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate the emphasis on the size of the paths. I have 2 garden beds in my backyard, and the older I get, the more I realize I need to raise the beds, because like even bending over for me is becoming more challenging. And staying in that position for a long time. So yeah, the sensitivity to that, not just for people who experience disabilities, but also for able-bodied people who are aging, is something that we can think about. All right, and I see Constance is reading my mind, Constance, because you just put in the chat, places to sit in an outdoor room is important too, could be modular and fixed in place. I believe that's our next topic. If we don't have any other feedback on the community garden, we can go to the next slide. And while she's doing that, I will actually, yeah, let's go to the outdoor classroom since that's up. which would be slide 21, Millie. And the questions are, what kind of classes, talks, or workshops do you think would work well in outdoor classrooms? Are there any Carver programs that could use this space? How could outdoor classrooms be used by different groups of people, like kids, older adults, families, or school groups? What would make an outdoor classroom the best place for learning and having fun at the museum? And how can we ensure that these spaces actively support collective learning, cultural exchange, and opportunities for underrepresented voices to be heard and valued? All right, so let's have a discussion about outdoor classrooms.
Yay. Okay. So I would like to add that I'm a part of, we've hosted Children in Nature's workshops at the Carver in the past, and we didn't do it this year because we are supporting our freshmen in college. But we are excited. We were excited when we saw the garden, but yes, the outdoor classroom would be very helpful with the part of it's now going to be your inner nature where children and adults and multi-generational families could go and again learn about whatever is planted there, or we have donations of seeds and then everyone can learn how to plant and then take that with them, like those little cups you can put everything in, and it's the takeaway. What's the other one? Tree Folks, I think comes out, like partnering again because of the limitations of staff, that we don't have enough people due to budget. But I think the outdoor space would be great as I think what I am envisioning something similar to like the library has the auditorium type, but more of a natural, sustainable, eco-friendly type seating area with something that a lecturer can, speak to the participants on what's going on in the garden or whatever the season could be, a seasonal lecture. I think the outdoor classroom is an excellent idea because it really helps, again, everybody's seated or they're moving around and they can come back and sit down. What else was it? And also something else similar that I saw like at the Asian American Cultural Center. I think early on I think they still have that garden out there, but like a walking learning garden, but again, a place to sit. I think this falls into the last one, honestly, as far as outdoor classrooms, but partnering with SFC, Tree Folks, and whoever gives the heirloom seeds, I think that would help with what am I trying to say? With participation and maybe even like a little farmer's market or something, not too big, but I know they look for other locations, but that could help. And then you can have some music outside because I love music, and I think everybody else does. We're supposed to be the music capital. So definitely need that space again.
Right.
Plants love music too.
Plants love music.
They do. Yes, that's great creativity around use of the space.
Yeah.
Or
It even
expanding learning. Go ahead.
Yeah, partner with, we have so many universities here. We have UT, but HT, everyone, anyone who's in music can come and serenade us in the plants. That would be a beautiful, I think, experience for everyone involved.
And I see that Constance added shade awnings or other types of sheltered areas to maximize or extend the outdoor space when the weather is hot. Yes, we got a lot of feedback on that in our first discussion on the topic. I'm curious about the tie to George Washington Carver. That's one of the things we know him for, is his groundbreaking work in agriculture and farming. And should this space, like tie in the outdoor classroom space, tie into that legacy in any way?
I think so. I think for sure. I think as far as like STEM learning or STEAM, and thinking about just the science of agriculture, and how to be inventive and how you like propagate things. I'm not a agriculturist or agra person, other than I like to eat and I whisper to my succulents every once in a while and think that they whisper back to me. But I do think the science of growing and just our food is really important. Also, soil health, right? Because not all soils are the same, and even earthworms can be invasive species. So just learning about what's beneath, what's in the dirt, that kind of micro ecosystems, and that type of the soil health is important, because we know environmental justice is a thing that happens, that's important as well.
Absolutely. I piggyback on that with the soil health and again, the education is all STEM, how the plant grows, all of those things. But I'm pretty sure there's a curriculum somewhere of his discoveries. Like, did he invent? Um, I know the peanuts are the thing, but everything he worked on in his lab that we could apply there, because we have the room. We've had that room for years, but a way to make that more tactile.
Bring that to life outdoors.
Yeah,
essentially.
yeah.
Okay.
That would be great. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
Any other
Yeah.
thoughts, ideas? Oh, go ahead, Tony.
I was just going to say, I love the idea of maybe cross-programmatic would be the way to say it, combining these educational museum type exhibits and experiences with the outdoor space, so that you have the kind of printed, learned, or however it's displayed, but then you have examples, real life examples of it right there. I think that's really a clever way of tying the garden back to the museum and keeping it all educational.
I will tell you that my family owns a farm in Mississippi, and I would imagine that one of the reasons that we grew peanuts in that farm is because of the legacy of George Washington Carver. I'm going to go back and this just occurred to me. I'm going to go back and try to ask some of my elders, like how that happened in our family. So there's a deep tie in my family to peanuts. And it just clicked that it may be because of George Washington Carver and his work. So yeah, being able to also tie the legacy around foodways in this work as well. So, okay, I'm having an epiphany. Okay. So I love doing this work because I'm always learning and exploring and discovering what's going on in the world and also the impact for my life. So I appreciate y'all. All right, I think we can move to our next topic. You all have made such a huge impact on our thinking already. Let's go to the event lawn with covered pavilion, and let's talk about this area. So Tony, I would love for you to bring up your slide and show, because I think this is where we're covering the pool and doing some things to create this space. But as he's pulling up that slide to show where the event lawn with covered pavilion would be, here are the questions that we would love your feedback, input, ideas on. How can we make sure that these spaces, the event lawn and covered pavilion, help people learn together, share ideas, and give everyone a chance to be heard? What kinds of events or activities do you think could happen on the event lawn with the covered pavilion? This space will be designed to be easy for everyone to use. What special features, again, like lighting, seating, or space for moving around, do you think are most important? And how important is it for this space to be easy to access? Are there any special needs for people who might have trouble moving around or need other help? So help us think about what this space could be for the Carver. And Tony, go ahead and tell us where this is and how this is coming to fruition. You're on mute, Tony.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
Okay. So if you can see what I'm showing here, this is kind of a 3D or axonometric view of the site. You may be more familiar with this space currently because it's the abandoned pool, which now is serving as the community garden. So part of this work on the site will be to relocate those community gardens over here, as we discussed, fill in that pool area in order to get a sufficiently large lawn. And then this would be the kind of pavilion, or we're calling it pavilion, but really it's a kind of stage area. So the idea here, or if it's a small event, it may be a pavilion where people just kind of gather and have activity. For example, I can think of like Waterloo Park, they'll do like yoga in the park, right? And so your instructor, and if it's a small enough class, you may all be on the pavilion. If it's a big enough class, there may be some people out in the lawn. But that's kind of what we want to better understand is what type of events are we looking for, and then what amenities in this space would help foster those types of events.
All right, so now we can see where this space is envisioned. Let's talk about the event lawn and pavilion. What thoughts, questions, ideas do you all have about this area?
I popped mine in the chat.
Okay, thank you.
We were able to enjoy the Juneteenth event, and I did like the layout. So again, similar, I'm a big festival goer, so similar, like you have the standing area in the front, but then like maybe graded so people can sit in the back and have shade and some kind of magical way to have those mister things keeping everyone cool off because we know it's getting hotter and hotter. But yeah, obviously accessible pathways, etc. But yeah, really shade and just keeping everyone cool because it's a great space, but we live in a very oppressive heat region of the country. So I think that's the main thing. I think what they put together was great for the Juneteenth event. It was kind of hard to get to the vendors. So if there was a specific space that was a little, again, more accessible to go to any vendors, if we're having an event there, that would be helpful. That way you're not walking so much. It was like dedicated. I'm not good at coordinating that, but some expert person can set that up. But those kind of things, if they're knocking the pool out, I guess, all the way now, or just keeping the garden there where the pool is.
I
So
think
the-
the plan is to eliminate the pool and relocate the gardens.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you, Angela, for that feedback. Any other thoughts, comments, questions, ideas about?
I
the
think
event lawn?
echoing what Angela said, Angela, we're gonna be friends, just so you know, I'm gonna find you. But I just thinking holistically about the site, and this is the design planner person in me, having a story path, maybe using some interpretive information that really compels people to enjoy the entire site, right? Like breadcrumbs. Oh, this is interesting. There's another thing over there for me to discover, maybe during more dormant times, So it's a multi-purpose space that is activated for specific activities, but what happens when there aren't special events that are being planned? And so maybe extending that some interpretive information along a pathway that makes sense for folks that just happen to be visiting and want to, that are on a learning journey, such as myself. And I think I love outdoor yoga and, meditation, concerts, all those things too. But having some design elements that are aesthetically pleasing, designed by artists, hint, hint, public art, I think would be great. And so you have the historical component, but you also have some contemporary aesthetics that are, add on to the storytelling element. I think would be great.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I will say, I think that's going to come up in our next topic to some extent, but appreciate the comment.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right. And I love that we're creating community in a community meeting and that we're creating friendships. So Angela and Constance are like this now. I love it. All
Rhonda?
right. Yes,
Shonda,
go
real
ahead.
quick, just for record keeping sake, I inadvertently had shared the event questions originally directly with Angela because I hadn't
Okay.
realized the messages were going just to her. And so she replied when she posted and it went just to me. So I know she
Gotcha.
came on, microphone and spoke, but just for the record so that it's in the recording, she had mentioned shade, cooling misters, which was also backed up by Christine's earlier comment about protecting staff working outside, standing and seating area, accessible pathways, community circles, and the Juneteenth Fest. So thank you. And I should have corrected it now and everybody should be able to see it, but sorry.
That is perfect. Thank you. Thank you for staying on top of the chat for me today. I really appreciate it. And thank you for your feedback, Angela, as well. All right. So I think we're ready to go to the next topic, if that's okay with you all.
I just wanted to take this moment to say goodbye. I'll be headed to the museum to set up for Solar Saturday if you guys are looking for something weather friendly to do. It's from 2 to 4 today, and we've got a lot of different activations. But I also just wanted to quickly say that this has made me feel really good because the feedback that I'm hearing from community, we currently do those things already. Of course, we need help amplifying all that great work, but especially with the African foodways, we had Michael Twitty come for Juneteenth. We had outdoor gardening classes with Harvey Franks, who unfortunately, due to the challenges of budget cuts, we do not have her on staff anymore. But these are things in the forefront of what we're planning and offering to community. So thank you so much for sharing because it makes me feel like we're on the right track. And I hope everyone has a good day. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. Thanks for all your work and have a good event today. Go
Thank
ahead.
you. Bye.
Sharonda, can I clarify on
Sure.
Christine's comment? Hervé was funded through the Austin Civilian Conservation Corps, the ACCC, and that program was moved out of the Parks Department over to Economic Development Department. So the funding has sort of shifted, and we are looking at ways to continue that programming, but we're going to have to do our best to partner with EDD and figure out how that can work. So the budget wasn't exactly cut. It was sort of shifted where the funding comes from, and we're working on being able to bring that back.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. That's an important message, I think, to get out. You know, running these types of facilities are complex because you're pulling in dollars from a lot of different sources. And I would imagine that there are grant funds as well that fund some of the work that happens at the Carver. And those grant funds usually have limited timeframes too. So echoing what Christine said about how do we amplify and make sure that we're communicating with community about what's happening at the Carver, because everyone loves it. It's a treasure. It's an asset for the community, and people need to be in the know for sure. All right. So we are on our last topic. If I'm doing this right, I think I'm doing this right. And we're going to talk about the Juneteenth statues, which I learned. I mentioned at the beginning that I was part of the original expansion team back in early 2000s. And it was in 2016, I believe, that the statues were placed at the Carver. But for some reason, because they've been there for so long, I just thought that they had been there the whole time. But that was a real asset to the tapestry of what the Carver Museum provides, are these Juneteenth statues that are on the grounds of the Carver Museum. So we've got a couple of questions for you about relocation of the Juneteenth statues, and we'll share it with you where those statues might go. There are different areas that have been proposed in the 2021 plan about where those statues might go. Now, I do want to say that the statues will have to be moved as part of the expansion during construction. because we don't want them to be damaged. We want to make sure that they are kept safe. And so they will be moved and placed into storage during construction. And then when they come out of storage, once construction is complete, is what we're talking about is where they're placed once construction is complete. All right. So the statues will have to go away for a little while. They're going to take a rest. They've been out there holding it down since 2016. They've got a rest. Is that right? Go ahead, Marjorie.
Yes, they got a rest. We're also hoping we can get them some restoration, some kind of
Yes.
conservation efforts, cleaning.
All the
They need to be taken care of and spruced up a little bit. And we want to make sure they last as long as humanly possible. So they'll be resting, but they'll also be getting a nip
It's
and
a
a
spa
tuck.
treatment. They're getting
Yes, exactly.
The glow up. Let's call it
a
what it
glow
is.
up. They're getting a glow up. I like that, Tony. So we want to know what's special about the location of the statues. What would be your concerns about moving them? And how do you feel about moving the statues to a different spot on the museum grounds? We know how precious these statues are to our community. Which of the new locations, the new spots, do you think would be the best place to honor the statues' history and meaning? And how could moving the statues to a new place make the experience better for visitors, especially those learning about Austin's African-American history and culture? So those are the questions that we want to tee up for the relocation of the statues. Before we jump into the conversation, Tony, you want to share with us?
Yeah, I just wanted to point out where the spots have been identified, potential spots for them to be relocated. Millie, I think you have the map on the slide before this potentially. Oh, that's the 3D. Okay, well, we can use this. If you don't mind being my cursor, Millie.
Millie, what are you doing, Millie?
She's good. She's good.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So currently where you see the courtyard between the arts and education and the theater is where the statues currently sit. And because of the expansion of where you see that art and education, that's the expansion of the gallery. They will be obscured from view more than they already currently are. And so I think this is a discussion between visibility and security, right? I know there are concerns around vandalism and what that means if they're out on the street front versus in the back. I'm not sure which is more likely to be vandalized, honestly, but the three identified spots for relocation are the Juneteenth Plaza you see in the lower left corner there. That would be beside the library. And then right in front of the Carver main entry is another location. So in that area there. And then finally along the path that connects the Carver Museum lot to the Keeling Middle School. So that's that small path to the right of the screen. You can see kind of winding through the community garden and under the tree cover there on the right. Sorry, Millie, further right of the pavilion. There you go, that real skinny path there. So the idea could be that the statues could be laid out along that path, I think, kind of in keeping with maybe what Constance was imagining, that the Freedom Walk and then the statues could be laid out along that path again to provide a reason or a destination for further exploration of the full site. So those are the three locations that have been identified. And, maybe there's a fourth location or another location that you think would work, and we're certainly open to that, but just wanted to let you know that before we start the discussion.
Thank you. Thank you, Tony. All right. So let's talk about the statues. Comments, questions, concerns?
This is Constance. At first blush, I like the idea of having the sculptures or the statues in front of the museum, somewhere in close proximity to the entrance to signify a sense of arrival, right? And like your journey starts there, the story starts here, your experience starts here. Also invites a sense of investigation, and a lot of major museums have like a signature sculpture close to the front entrance that kind of helps with wayfinding also, to just pinpoint like you are here, and here's the entrance to the museum. But so those are my initial thoughts.
Thank you.
I agree. We are friends, Constance. I think a waypoint is really important to begin the story and then explore the rest of the museum. That way, just a casual person traveling through, like we just came from Macon, Georgia, so we did some touring out there, and it's very helpful to have that waypoint, and then it's telling the story as you go through the grounds of the museum. Those three areas are great. I mean, I see about the safety part. I understand that, but I feel like it makes it official, similar to like the Capitol grounds. If you have them in the front, telling the story, and if they're protected with the same protectant the ones on the Capitol have, they should be able to last us way past these generations, like hundreds of generations. But I love the storytelling that we have for now, but it is hidden in the back, so I think it should be front and center.
Thank you. Thank you, Constance. Thank you, Angela. Terry, did you want to weigh in on the Juneteenth statues for us? Location, questions, concerns, best spots?
I agree with both ladies. It does start the journey if it's in front of the museum with wayfinding. So I completely support that. Thank you.
All right. Well, we're going to head back over to Minty because we've got a few more questions for you that we want to capture your feedback on. And so I think the next slide. Yep. You can bring out your phone and scan the QR code or go to minty.com and put in the code 3433-4255. And I'm going to share my screen. All right. So we'd love to stay in touch with you and make sure that you are engaged in the community meetings, small group meetings. So if you want to share your email with us and let us know if you want to be a part of the progress moving forward for the Carver, you have an opportunity to privately share it with us here by filling this in, and I'll give it just a second.
Sharonda, there's another question in that, I guess in this section that says which wants us to identify which small group discussion we want to join. Is there a menu of
You
small
can ignore
groups?
that one, just
Oh,
the
okay.
email. I'm sorry, I don't see that on my slide. So just if you'll just share your email.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Constance, you might need to put that code back in, perhaps. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I can say the code again if that's possible. 3433-4255.
And it's at the top of the screen. All right. What have we missed? What have we not talked about? Is there anything related to the Carver expansion that is on your heart and mind right now? Or something that maybe you're like, oh, I wish I would have said this. Go ahead and.
No, I think we've hit everything. I mean,
Okay.
I have lived here over 30 years, and I am sad that we don't have a pool because I do want swimming back in our communities. I know we got Givens, so we'll just have to use that.
Thank you, Angela.
And Givens is almost done, so
Yes, I'm excited.
won't be long now.
It's in walking distance for me.
I'm
So
very excited. My children, who are now 18, 20, and 23,
the 20-year-old did the swim team at Givens back in the day.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
incredible. Yeah.
Yep.
That's incredible. Yeah. All right. And let us know what you think about today's conversation. Okay. All right. I'm going to stop sharing. Thank you all so very much. I do want to pull back up the slide and let you know about what's coming up and how to stay in touch with us for this process. You all have been a great group to have a conversation with and given us a lot of really, I will just say, beautiful ideas that we can think about that will help inform the design team as well. So thank you for your input and your feedback today. We are going to be having more meetings and more conversations because it really is important to us to hear from the community as we move this process through. So we're going to have 2 open houses. One, I'm sorry. Well,
Can
we're
we
doing
share
one-
the, sorry
Yeah,
to
she's
interrupt,
gonna share.
Sharon.
She's gonna
There
share the
we go.
screen. Yeah.
Okay.
So we're doing our virtual open house today. We'll have an in-person discussion on Tuesday from 4:30 to 6. And so please, I know that you know people who love the Carver, are interested in this topic, and would want to participate. We'll be there from 4:30 to 6 on Tuesday. And then we're going to have a series of small group discussions starting on the 17th of December. And you'll see the schedule here. So there are 2 virtual discussions and 2 in-person discussions. So the virtual meetings are the 17th of December and the 7th of January, both from 6 to 7:30 p.m. And the in-person discussions are January 9th and January 11th. January 9th is from 5:30 to 7, and January 11th is a Saturday meeting, similar to what we're doing today, from 10 a.m. until 11:30. All right. So we have your email. We'll know how to get in touch with you. And again, our next open house is Tuesday, December 10th from 4:30 to 6 p.m. at the Carver. So we'll be in that space. Next slide, please. All right. We just want you to be part of this vision. And again, appreciate and thank you for joining us today. I want to see if Tony or Marjorie or Adrian have anything to share before we end our discussion.
I just wanted to say thank you, everyone, for your excellent feedback, and we look forward to meeting again.
Absolutely. I'll second that. And I did just want to note on the slide here, the Parks and Recreation website that has all of the project phase 1 information is listed there, or you can use the QR code shown there. So please do visit that. That'll have all of that will have the community engagement schedule that we just reviewed with you, but it will also have the links to register for the online meeting. So if you have any questions, that's the place to look.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you for adding that. All right. Well, happy holidays, everyone. Again, thank you for joining us. We really do appreciate your feedback and input on the Carver vision and Carver expansion. And we'll see you soon. Have a great weekend.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you.